In ancient India, there was development of some 6 schools of philosophies like Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshik, Minansa, and Vedanta. The purpose of philosophy in ancient India was to get ultimate salvation from the endless cycles of birth and rebirth. So basically, the purpose was to get moksha or ultimate salvation for soul. Now, you have to understand here that moksha was just not heaven. As per the Dharma Shastras and Dharma Sutras, if a person would perform very good acts throughout the life, the person would get a lot of punya, and after that, the person would go to heaven. But once the impact of that punya is over, the person would have to leave heaven, would have to come back, and would have to take the birth again. So, certainly, that was not ultimate salvation from the endless cycle of birth and rebirth. Moksha, compared to heaven, is a very different idea. It would talk about ultimate freedom. When the soul would not have to return back, it would be ultimately free from the endless cycles of birth and rebirth. And that is what is the purpose of the schools of philosophy in India. One of the most ancient philosophical systems in India was that of Sankhya, propounded by Kapil. Kapil wrote the basic treatise of Sankhya philosophy that was called Sankhya Sutra. It is very important to know that Sankhya does not believe in any divine origin of the world. Don't you think that? In that way, this idea is very similar to the idea of Buddhism as well. Buddhism also does not believe in a supreme creator, and that is why it is also believed that the philosophy of Sankhya to some extent also influenced the Buddhist ideology. Now, Sankhya believes that the entire universe is because of the combination between Purush and Prakriti. Prakriti is matter and Purush is consciousness. The combination between Purush and Prakriti has led to everything, has led to the origin of the universe. And that is why Sankhya philosophy believes that to know the ultimate reality of Purush and Prakriti, that is the goal. Through knowledge, through Gyan, if we can come to know about the ultimate nature of Purush and Prakriti, that would lead to salvation, that would lead to freedom, that would lead to moksha. Another great school of philosophy is yoga, propounded by the great Rishi Patanjali. Patanjali wrote the basic treatise in this philosophy that was called Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. Now, the basic meaning of yoga is to add. But to add, you need two entities. One is soul, one is super soul. So, yoga can help a person in realizing this union between the soul and super soul. Now, yoga philosophy believes that this can be done through discipline, physical, and mental. So, basically, yoga is the way of disciplining the physical and mental dimensions of a person to realize that ultimate union with the super soul. Another school of philosophy is Nyaya. Now, if you talk about this school of philosophy, we have to understand that it was propounded by the great Rishi Gautam. And Gautam wrote the famous treatise on Nyaya that was called Nyaya Sutra. Nyaya basically emphasizes on logic and inference. To get salvation, certainly it would promote the study of logic in India. It believes that through the logic and inference, we should try to realize the ultimate reality and to get the salvation. Again, a philosophy that was very scientific idea was Vaisheshik. that was propounded by Kannada Rishi. Now, when we talk about Vaisheshik, a very scientific-like idea it was, and it believed that there are 5 Mahabhutis called Panch Mahabhuti, called Panch Mahabhuti. Now, what are these Panch Mahabhuti? Prithvi, Jal, Vayu, Agni, and Akash. Now, the philosophy of Vaisheshik believes that when the atoms or the Parmanu of these Panch Mahabhutis they associate with each other, that leads to the rise of world. But when the atoms or the Parmanu of these Panch Mahabhutis they dissociate with each other, that leads to destruction of the world. So basically, it was a very scientific theory that was talking about atom, that was talking about Parmanu like concepts. But unfortunately, later a lot of spirituality was mixed into this, and then the theory degenerated, it deteriorated. Another great philosophy was Minansa, propounded by the Rishi Jaimini. Minansa is also called Purva Minansa, and the basic treatise on this philosophy is called Purva Minansa Sutra. This was written by Jaimini. Now, the theory of Mimamsa or the philosophy of Mimamsa basically supports Vedic rituals and yagyas. So basically, it explains the philosophy of Vedic rituals and yagyas and how that would help in reaching the salvation or moksha. Now, compared to that, Vedanta philosophy is also called Uttar Mimamsa. Why it is called Uttar Mimamsa? Because Vedanta philosophy is also much influenced by the ideas of Upanishad. Now, Upanishads came at the end of Vedic literature. So, Ved and Ant, Vedant, and that is why they are called Vedanta philosophy. Now, Vedanta discards the rituals and rather emphasizes on the Gyan mark to get salvation. So, Vedanta philosophy or Uttar Mimamsa philosophy discards the importance of ritual, and rather it says that the salvation should be there through the effort of Gyan marg, knowledge, the path of knowledge. The initial treatise in this philosophy of Vedanta was Brahma Sutra, and that was written by Badrayan. But later, a lot of popularity to this theory, to this philosophy came because of the contribution of the great Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya emphasized on the idea of Advait. Now, what is Advait? He said that there is just one single reality, and that is God. Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya. That only God is true. Nothing else is true. Everything is illusion. This idea of monoism that was popularized by Shankaracharya was basically called Advait. Now, these are the 6 schools of philosophy which developed in ancient India. Now, this is what I wanted to discuss with you in this session of History Simplified series. Thank you.